I had to get a divorce, but I was not prepared for that. I never had a role model or anyone telling me how I can survive, have money, be okay. Money means peace and freedom. If women had more money, they wouldn't be in spaces where they would be hurt or it would be toxic or abusive. A lot of women that I see don't leave really complicated marriages because they say, I'm not gonna be able to have a house. Maybe my kids are not gonna go to the same schools. You can't put all the eggs of your basket in one person.
Welcome back to Catch The Upswing for a special episode from Mexico City. And today I'm sitting down with Ana Paola Villegas, who is a financial advisor, the founder of Mompreneur Mexico, and also author of Despechada Pero Con Lana.
Exactly.
This book, which I think loosely translates as heartbroken but not broke. Is that
exactly.
how you would?
It's better. I was thinking heartbroken but with money.
Yeah.
But yeah, not broke also works. So
Great.
yes.
So Ana, what really stands out to me in your work is that, you know, it's of course about money, but it's not only about money. And I think what it really shows us is that sometimes the assumptions that we build our lives on can suddenly not hold anymore. You know, it's almost like you're making assumptions about life, how things will work out. And then you suddenly realize that actually that's not how life works sometimes.
Yes, exactly. It's funny because money is not about money. It's always about emotions. It's like food. Like I compare it a lot with food because it's always an emotional, impulsive response. So if you're happy, you spend, and if you're sad, you spend. The same thing goes with food. So when I do these one-on-ones with women, usually it's always about something else, and it's not about financial structure, tools, or anything that is actual, like something physical or objective. It's always about not feeling worth, important, even loved. It has to do with so many things around nothing about money. Like everything is I have to be a coach, and I'm heading that way, because when I talk to people, you need to be coaching them in other things so that they can have, financial stability. And that really surprised me. I thought it was going to be more, we don't have information, but it's not about information. It's emotions.
Wow, it's so interesting. And I would love to start with your own journey and your own story, because you have spoken very openly about going through a divorce and also having to rebuild from a place of really having nothing left. And so can you take me back to that moment when suddenly everything changed for you?
I have a really long story that it would take up all your time, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to summer this up into, when I was 21, I got pregnant and I had to get married, and then I had to finish the university. So I come from a very Catholic, conservative family. So I had no option. I had to get married. The baby had to be born. And I said, okay, I'll do that if you pay me, the university in anywhere I want to, because I had to go to LA, to Los Angeles in the United States, because the father of my child was studying there. So it became this transactional thing. And then from a really young age, I learned that you had to be in power. You had to control the narrative, or someone else was going to choose for you, right? So thank God, the father of my son is my friend, and he's a fantastic person. But it was very dangerous to even do that, to go live with someone just because you're pregnant and then, studying somewhere else. And so money obviously had to do with everything, right? Because I couldn't choose my path because I didn't have any money at 21 and I was pregnant. And then I got married when I was 31, and I have two beautiful girls from that marriage. And when I got divorced for things I can't really talk about because, it's complicated. I had to make that choice, but then again, I didn't really plan for that to happen. So I didn't invest or save or even had a job, that would give me some income. So I would be also, again, have that tool. And so again, I had to learn that lesson, really hard lesson of I had to get a divorce, but I was not prepared for that. So I think throughout our life, we're giving a lot of things to overcome and learn. Sometimes you don't learn it the first time, so you have to make more mistakes and then learn it the second time. But that finally hit me, and I knew that I had to obviously work for me so I could survive, but also pay it forward and pass this information, because I never had a role model or anyone telling me how I can survive, have money, be okay. And in Mexico, money means peace and freedom. If women had more money, and again, it's not about money, but if they had money, they wouldn't be in spaces where they would be hurt, or it would be toxic, or, abusive. We would leave, most likely. And I know it's complicated, but I think if a woman has that opportunity and has money, she's going to take a better, make a better choice and leave a space that is not for her. So
yeah, super interesting. And it's, also as you described, you basically didn't have many options, or you had no options at the time.
No.
Fast forward, when you then got to this point of a divorce, what did it mean to be left with nothing? Like in real terms, what was it? You mentioned no savings, no investment, but like, what did that reality look like? Very tangible.
It was super scary. And I think a lot of women that I see one-to-one, they're very scared to make that choice and say, I'm going to divorce, because you don't know how the man is going to act. And in Mexico, we still are, I guess, under a lot of cultural pressure to be a certain way. If you're a mom, it's better to be a stay-at-home mom, right? I think socially, they push you to choose this, like, don't work, be with your children, be a good wife. And there's a lot of guilt involved. So we leave everything because we want to be that great mom and great wife. But in I guess life passes by, and not all men will take care of you. Not all men are going to be good to you. And you can't take that chance of kind of like a flip of a coin. Oh, I hope he's okay. I hope he takes care of me. Or I hope he's not going to cheat on me, or he's not going to hit me, or, like, you can't put all your, like, the eggs of your basket in one person. You have to think that, well, maybe and not only divorce or him being a certain way, but like maybe he loses his job, or he gets sick, and you're going to be the one taking care of the family. So how can we be all better? Not only men, but like women and children. Like, it's important to think about everyone.
Yeah, and I guess it must be hard, right? Because it's when you're going through a divorce, or you're making, if it's your choice, you're making the choice, or maybe it's not your choice, but
right.
You're still in the situation. I guess it's difficult because there is the financial pressure, and there's the emotional load as well.
Definitely.
And yeah, can you talk, maybe from your own journey, or also from the other women who you have featured in your book and where you have seen the stories? Like, what does it look like? How do you, I guess, what's the heavier weight? Is it the emotional one or the financial one, or how do these two interact?
They're definitely tied, So I think emotionally you feel like a failure, because there's like a plan that you made with a person to be together. Like, nobody gets married to get divorced. So that idea or fantasy or plan is over. So letting go is really painful. And then financially, if you don't have somewhere you can be okay, and pay the bills and keep the lifestyle you've had before, it's even more painful, because you're saying goodbye to everything. A lot of women that I see don't leave really complicated marriages because of this situation, because they say, I'm not going to be able to have a house, or maybe eat, or maybe my kids are not going to go to the same schools. I might not have a car anymore. Like, there are real consequences to that. So it's not an easy decision.
I wonder as well, when you look back on your own journey and learnings, were there things that you had to almost like unlearn before you were able to rebuild?
About yourself, or
about your
marriage, or...
maybe your relationship with money and with how you're thinking about money, security, safety.
Yeah, everything goes out the window, and I think it's healthy. You have to start over. So the version of you that got married has to die, right? Has to die in a way. You have to let go of that, give thanks, say thank you for teaching me, for being there, but this doesn't work anymore. So now I'm going to be this other person that is going to be doing other things. It's going to be more independent. We're tough. Women, we're very resilient. So you're going to find a way, and it's going to be okay. But we have to forgive, let go. And I think also there's like a Japanese like bowing that to a place maybe that you lived, or a marriage or a relationship or whatever, that when you say thank you to that, and thank you for the blessings and the things I learned, and I can move on, I think it also helps to rebuild your new self. But you have to do it again, and that's not going to be easy. But first, you don't have a choice, right? You have to do something different, and then it's going to be okay, and you're going to be a better version of that. Like, it's not tragic. If you see it as this opportunity to do something different with your life and be another version of yourself, then it's good.
And you mentioned earlier that at the time you didn't have role models, or not even, somebody who inspired you to even think about those things, or it wasn't, something that was talked about, etc. At what point did you realize that this wasn't just your story, but that there were patterns across other women as well?
Well, I when I was still married, I opened a space, like a mommy blog space. And so I met virtually a lot of people. But when the pandemic happened, the stories I got in my DMs and messages were really scary and really sad, So I started to notice how, myself included, we didn't have money in our name. We didn't invest. We weren't thinking about, what if something happens? What if what you have right now is not going to be there, like someone else taking care of you, etc. And so I realized that I had to put my effort not on mothering and on all these like subjects, but more on money. So then I started like this second career, because you have to obviously know before you talk, and more about finances. I mean, I'm a cinema major. So I'm like, oh my God, I studied cinema to not study finance, and then I end up in finance. But for my friends, for me, and for a lot of people, it's so important to understand the value of having money in your name, that's what I have been dedicating my time. Since the pandemic till now, it's been like 5-6 years, and everything has been through that. So every time I see women and I hear their stories, it just happens over and over and over and again. And so the book, the Despechada Pero Con Lana, it's about these 10 women, different ages, different classes or whatever, but we all go through the same things, And so why can't we have money in our name? Why can't we do things differently? So that's like a mission that I have, because I know what it feels like. And I have 2 daughters, and I have a lot of best friends, and some of them are in the book. And I don't want this to keep repeating itself. And I know it's not only Mexico. Like, this happens, worldwide. If we don't have control of that, of money, someone else is going to decide for us.
A quick note of thanks and a small invitation. If you're enjoying this podcast, subscribing is one of the easiest ways to support the work and help these conversations travel further. I really appreciate you being here.
And it's really amazing how you have rebuilt, and how you are now, a financial advisor, a role model for so many other women. But like, back to this moment where you were, like kind of this rock bottom moment where you were left with nothing. What were the first steps that you took, that because I think that's also something that then we can from there see what other women could do. Like, how do you pull yourself out of such a difficult situation?
I remember that when I got divorced, one of the most important people in my life was my grandfather, and he passed away. And I was just like rock bottom. It was December of 2016. I went to a friend for Christmas because my girls were not going to be with me. So I was alone. I was divorced. My grandfather died. Like all these things happened. And you think like, oh, I'm going to have just a cup of, a glass of wine and whatever. And I realized that I was just like, I never drink. I really don't like it that much. But I was drinking like every day and I was feeling super depressed. And I said, that's it. Like, I can't do this. I can see myself spiraling, and feeling like self-pity. And there's so much, I can do. So the only thing at that moment that it was like a really horrible moment was exercise. So I saw this like dumbass advertising of like intense exercise. It kind of like militarized exercise. I mean, don't even ask me, but I saw it and I said, well, if there's anything that's going to pull me emotionally out from this thing, it's going to be something that is related to exercise.
Wow.
And it was super intense. It's only supposed to be like for 3 months or so. And it's every day, 6 a.m. It's crazy. So, but I needed that. I needed something that would like snap me out of it. And I kept doing it for 2.5 years. So I found that exercise is not really, it is obviously a physical thing, but it's a mental thing. So when you are doing exercise and it's not like you're, slowly exercising or moving. When you do something that is like planks, right? And your body starts getting super tired and you're like, I can't do this. I can't do it. And then you have this crazy coach saying, just 1 more minute, just 1 more. And you can do this. And this thing that has to do with your body becomes something mental. Mm-hmm. And when you are going through loss and desperation and you don't know what you're going to do, you can't fall, okay? And more if you're a parent, like you have this huge responsibility with your children. So when you teach your body that you can do it a little longer and you can sustain the pain, then something unblocks in your mind that you're going to be okay also emotionally. That's the way I found like a path, to be okay. I don't know, people might find meditation and other things, but I needed something that was physical, mm-hmm. so that it would unblock something in my emotions and my brain telling me you're going to be okay. Just keep trying, mm-hmm. And it's funny, but being constant is way more important than intelligence or even money. It's like if you have someone that loves and has a passion and is consistent in something, most likely that person is going to succeed, mm-hmm. Just by the fact of he's all the time or she's all the time doing that,
Yeah, I can really see that, because I think when you're, in a difficult life stage where maybe you're feeling depressed or, you're kind of in the spiral that you mentioned, or there's also like so much in your head, all these thoughts, etc., can be really hard to kind of say, okay, now I'm sitting down, I'm going to get my act together. But like this physical exercise, it's something we don't have to overthink. Right. On the contrary, almost like letting go.
Yes.
But you have like this discipline of getting up every day, mm-hmm. doing something. So I can really see how that translates.
And it's the only thing you can do in your day that would immediately make you feel better. Mm-hmm. Like you can eat, you can sleep, that's all fine. But if you exercise, you're happy. Like it just, it gets in your body, your hormones, everything just is shiny, right? Mm-hmm. And nothing you do, not alcohol, not drugs, nothing has that impact. So, it's just for me, it's the best medicine. To learn how to be better, be more resilient, get to the goals that you want, live a place of depression and sadness. Like it just has so many good things.
So with everything that you have learned from your own story and journey, but also from working with so many other women in recent years, what would you advise women to do so that we don't fall into this almost like generational pattern of not having financial education as well as this financial independence that's so crucial?
Well, the thing is that some women think it's way too complicated to have that, and it's not. It really comes down to like a rule that if you earn 100, you have to learn to live with 80, right? So 20% of what you earn, you know, it depends how much you earn, whatever, but ballpark, it's like 10-20%. You have to put it somewhere else that you don't see it, that is automatic, like it's taken out of your either bank account or whatever. And so you're not in friction to saying, oh, I have all this money extra, I'm going to spend it, right? Because it's very hard for us as humans to say, oh, if you have X amount of money in your bank account, you're going to spend it. But if you organize your finances to, okay, I earned this amount is always going to come out at, let's say, the beginning of the month, but automatically you're like, I'm not going to do it. Like it's just going to happen and it's just going to go there and I'm going to invest it, right? That's like the easiest way that you're always going to have money, that your money is going to grow and it's not going to be hard for you because you don't even see it, okay? But that before that, obviously there comes like a organization, so that happens. But if you don't spend everything that you have, if you have that automatization, I guess, that happens with your investments, and then you're going to be balanced. There's a lot of like fear of missing out, the FOMO that, oh, I have to eat this, I have to buy this. Well, not really. Like it depends on the amount of income you have. But I think that's more of the approval of others. So again, it's not about money. It's about this, you know, why do I have to appear that I have more than I got to these people, you know? So it doesn't have to do with money. It has to do with this psychology or sociology. So I think it's important to understand how we buy and why we're doing it, what drives us to, you know, the expensive, you know, meals or clothes or shoes or cars. So why do we have to do that? Something amazing is that I saw this video, obviously TikTok, thank you. Mercedes-Benz in Mexico, there's a lady that works there. I don't know if she was the director or something, but she said that like 70% of the Mercedes-Benz cars in Mexico are financed for more than 3 years. And that speaks to you of why do you need to pretend that you can afford a Mercedes-Benz when you can't? Like if you have to pay that with interest for more than 3 years, maybe it's not the best investment. So people get tied up with cars or mortgages, or because they, you know, the reality is they can't afford that, but it's okay. Like, who are you trying to please, you know? So when we understand, because we all have that, you know, but we understand why we spend the way we spend, we can organize our money better, and the investment has to be a no-brainer. Like you don't think about it, it's taken out of your bank account and that's it, you know? Yeah. I think that's, if you have that, you are more advanced than 80% of the people. Like that's it. Like you don't need to read 3,000 books and take master classes, and it's just it's more of an impulse thing on your money and why you spend, you know?
So it's kind of very simple, but it's this discipline, right? So as you say, like your salary or your income hits your bank account.
Yes.
Before you even look at it, automatically 20%.
Exactly. Or 10.
Or 10.
But yeah, definitely.
Like a fixed amount goes into a savings account, or
I prefer an investment.
An investment.
Because I mean, saving is okay if you need like to. We all should have this emergency bag of money, no? So if you get like sick or you crash with your car, whatever, so that's the money you take if there's an emergency. But then the investment is always long term, and more if you're young, you have time. Like clients that are 55, 60, they have less time. I mean, not really, because we're going to live a long time, but like, let's say for retirement purposes, in Mexico is 60, 65 years old, right? So people that are 55, they have 5 years or 10 for the Mexican retirement. So they have to invest more to have a certain amount, you know, at that age. We're most likely going to live maybe 88, 1900. Okay. So it's okay if you're late in the investment game, but you have to start doing that. And that's like a no question asked. You have to do that. As the way you pay, you know, your rent or your water, food, that's how you pay your investment. Like you can't question that. Like there's no, you know, oh, maybe I'll spend it this month. It's okay. Like, no. Because then that's why we don't have money, you know. And now kids can start also investing through their parents, but they can start doing that, and then they see how their money grows, and their life is going to be completely different, you know. Like if we started investing when we were kids, we would be okay, you know. So, but we didn't do it. It's okay. It's never too late. You can always start, but it's more of a like you said, being consistent and organized, and, you know, doing that is going to take you to the place that you want to go.
Yeah, it's kind of this habit, right? And it's almost like a mindset shift that this is not something, oh, you know, do I have coffee today or not? But it's more like, okay, I'm paying my rent. As you say, you know, I'm paying electricity. And so this is something that is just
the same
taken
thing
for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I see women that don't work, right? So then they say, well, I don't have any income. And I'm like, yeah, but that's like a structural mistake. Because if you're staying at home and you have 2, 3 kids, whatever, you're working. Like you have a nonstop 24/7, 7 days a week job. You need to have like a mommy fund. I don't know how to call it, you know, like a fondo de mamá, mommy fund, something. And so every month your spouse or your partner should put some money there, and better not to ask why or how you spend it. Like, I think that there should be a privacy there, but that you would have this income, because you need to invest, you need to also have expenses. And I find also friends that ask their spouse, hey, can I have something for my coffee? Hey, can I? Or they have the credit card, and the excuse why they don't do that is that they turn around, you know, usually the men, and they say, well, you know, darling, what do you need? You need a bag? Do you need some shoes? And it's not about having stuff. It's like, give me this, you know, tool so I can also be responsible and invest, you know, money. You can't invest, you know, shoes. So don't give me things, you know. And I have a feminist friend that I love, and she said when the bicycle was invented in 1850 something, that men did not buy bicycles to their wives because they said, she's gonna go. She's gonna go. Oh, like, God. I can't. And it was just so funny, because I thought it was because of the dresses or whatever. Yeah. And she said, no, because it gave them freedom, right? Yeah. So I think money is kind of like that. They're like, no, I'm not gonna give you money because you're gonna go. Like, why do you need money? And this is all the stuff that we as women have to have a comeback and something to say. But you need money. You know, you need to invest. You need to be, and he needs to also, or she needs to give you that. If you're staying at home doing a lot of job that is raising kids, you need to have also that, you know. So work or not, we all need money.
Quick pause to invite all of you from our global community to participate in this conversation. I'm really curious to hear, does this reality that Ana is describing resonate with you? Are you perhaps in a completely different situation? Perhaps you are the primary earner in your relationship. What does that look like? How are you thinking about the topic of financial independence? Or perhaps you are single, or maybe co-parenting, or in a same-sex relationship. What does the topic of financial independence mean to you? And how are you navigating topics of money and financial security? Really love to hear from you all. Please share your story,
your questions and your perspectives in the comments below. And perhaps if you have a completely different model where you are building a business together, or maybe you've found a way to truly live equally shared parenting, or perhaps a different model altogether, would also really love to hear from you. So please share with us your story in the comments below and be part of this conversation. I think now we're getting really to like this very culturally like, uncomfortable conversation, right? And I think especially when you're still in the honeymoon phase, it's awkward to bring it up, right? Because it's almost like you're thinking about failure later on. But of course, if you're already getting into a more tricky part of the relationship, it's even more uncomfortable to have that conversation.
Completely.
So like because I think it's so ingrained in our culture I guess like globally in our culture.
Yes.
It's not only in Mexico. I think, as you said, this is really like money has been such a taboo topic for women to talk about in relationships. Like, how do we get out of this pattern of not talking about it and have those initially uncomfortable conversations, like very practically? How do you actually like sit down one day and say, okay, let's have a conversation about money? And
well, blame me, like blame the book, blame people that talk about this subject, like blame us. Like, hey, I saw in TikTok or I saw in YouTube this, podcast. And so blame it on us, but have the conversation. It's better to have it when you're dating whoever you're dating, to say, hey, I was wondering, like right now I have this, goal or these plans. I want to travel or I want to work here, etc. What would happen if we, live together or get married? Or what would happen if we have kids? Right now, like I can pay for this and this and that, and it's okay. But like if things changes, like I don't think there's like a bad guy. There are people that will be closed off and they're more macho, but not everyone. And I see young men way more open than in my generation. So I think it's just about having the conversation very casually. Don't make it like super awkward, even for you. Like it's okay to ask, It's like, for example, if we're about to talking about sex, it's okay to ask, hey, how many people have you been with? Have you been careful? Why? Because it's my body, right? Like I'm gonna be involved in your past decisions too. So if we can have more, I guess, sexual conversations, we should be able to talk about money or other things in the same way. Like it's not a bad thing. I think it's important to take off the taboo that is bad education to talk about money. Learn about your aunts. Like I feel I could be your aunt, like learn about your aunt's history or experiences. They didn't talk about money and look what happened, right? So I think it's important to just say, yeah, no problem. I'm going to talk about that. If you're thinking of sharing a life with someone and that you can't talk about this that matters so much and that it is going to directly impact you and your self-esteem and your life and everything, then that's a really red flag, but of you, that you can't have that conversation, because usually you restrain yourself, because maybe if you had it, your partner would say, oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't know this was important for you, right? Also, I think it's important to speak up.
Yeah. And it almost feels like easier at the beginning of a relationship or, at the time when you get married, for example, because then like, for example, at the point of marriage, inevitably, like some questions come up of, do you have like assets together or separate, and all those kind of like very technical things that you just have to, kind of administratively answer. But I think also, as you mentioned, like when you decide to have children together, to say, okay, well, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do equally shared parenting?
Right.
And both, having a job and an income and parenting, or if one of us stays home, how we are going to do it financially, and having that conversation.
Super important. I think that will change whatever happens in the marriage. to you or to him or to her, or, you know, whatever happens in that, if you have children or not, or you buy a house, or any decision of your life after that is going to be so much better and so much clearer, and you're going to sleep, you know, better. You're going to stop fighting so much. People fight a lot about money because they assume. So when you start assuming that he's going to be doing that and she's going to be, well, no, have you talked about it? So I think anything goes if both of you are okay with that, but talk about it so you have a plan, because life will happen, you know, death comes, or loss of job, or sickness, kids. So what are you going to do with your life, and how you can be okay with that?
Yeah, super important.
And I think it's easier for you guys, like the younger generation that I see. It's more open. Everything is like in the internet. I hear so many things, and there's so many books now. When I got married, nobody talked about it. Like, it was truly a taboo thing. And if I would have had like the opportunity to read the book I wrote, or other books that are really good, something in me would have changed. Like, I would have, you know, opened my eyes a little wider, saying, that's so true. What if he loses his job, you know? What if I have to be responsible for everything of my kids? You know, how am I going to do that? So yeah, also have a plan B. It's not boring or, you know, a bad thing or bad education. It's important for your safety.
Yeah. So a lot what we've been talking about is kind of at this, you know, individual level. So like I, you know, as a woman, take a decision to take things into my own hand, etc. Or I, as like a man, you know, have the conversation. But like, what about the system level? Because clearly there's also something, you know, out of balance at more of a system level. It's not just the individual responsibility. What would you say like needs to change more broadly in society? Or,
well, society is complicated because it takes time to change, right? Like, in the 70s, like 1974, it was the first time a woman from the US could have a credit card on her own without asking for permission, okay? And that is something global, like in Mexico too. So we couldn't have access to investments and credit cards and bank accounts without the permission of our partner, no, of the man. So it's not so long ago. Like, that happened. That was the story of my mom, right? So even though I can be in another place, more open, it's still like not a lot of years. So I think also society will shift slowly, and then it will come a time that it's going to be supernatural for men and women to, you know, and so this narrative is going to be obsolete. Like, oh yeah, a long time ago this happened, right? Like, when we talk about people voting, like women voting, right. Like, we don't even think about voting. We're like, yeah, of course I'm going to vote. But there was a time,
and not so long ago, actually,
and not so long ago, that women didn't vote. So society needs a little time, needs some years and generations to pass on from one to another, other type of information. But I see this, like, my mom and my life are completely different. So there was a complete change that is still like catching up in a broader sense. It's going to take a little longer, but it's going there. And I do feel that right now is the best moment for women to be women, because things are opening up for us that not even our parents or maybe your grandpa, I don't know, had, right? Like, your life is going to be very different.
Yeah. You mentioned the historic disadvantage that women have because they were structurally also excluded from opportunities like even a credit card or a bank account. So for somebody who's watching or listening and who's like, okay, I get it, like I put away a percentage of my salary or my income every month. Ana mentioned the importance of not only savings, but investment. Like, what is an easy step? Should they go to a bank, talk to a financial advisor? Is that like where the pitfalls or opportunities?
I think it depends on the country you live in. But there are so many, like, how do you call it? Market, like places that are regulated, that you can put your money in there. So in Mexico, we have something like it's casas de bolsa, and also through, I guess, some tools in insurance companies. Not everyone has that. But like there's regulated tools that you can put every month a little bit there, and then let your money grow. So there are ways that by yourself you can do it. And now there are apps, and then you can deposit from your bank account. But I think you do need to make this track record of your finances. So that means opening a bank account anywhere you want, but open a bank account. Why? Because there's a lot of places that for your income, they're going to deposit. They're not going to give you cash, right? And now the tendency is everything is going to be cashless. So if everything is like just digital, so you need a bank account so the money can come in, right? So that's the first one. The second one would be credit card. And understand this fact of life. Credit cards, their profit, 70% of the profit of credit cards are because we don't understand interests, and we're paying the bank for the money we used, okay? Because a credit card is a debt, right? But you have to only spend the amount of money that you have. So if I earn 100 and I'm using 80, I can pay something that is maybe 10 because I have the income. But you cannot have a credit card and spend 200 because you don't have 200. You have 80, 100, right? So a lot of people get tricked by, free money. No, it's not free money. So the bank charges you interest that in Mexico can go like 200 plus, Other countries are more regulated. In the US is lower, but still, if you don't pay the minimum before interest, all that money, you're not paying what you owe. You're paying to the bank your money, like you're giving them away. So that's why you get by mail or phone calls like, hey, would you like this credit card? Of course, because we don't know how to manage our finances. So banks earn 70% of their income is because of our lack of responsibility with credit cards, okay? So you should have a credit card and only spend what you know you're gonna get. So spend a little bit because it does give you 30, 60 days to pay it, but you have that money. It's not free money and it's no more money, right? But if you build these things slowly and you become responsible, then you find whatever tool of investment that you like. There's ETFs, that it's exchange trade funds. There are stocks, there's index funds. So there's a lot of places that are regulated that would give you options, and then you can do it monthly to invest there. So it's very easy to do it. Before it was complicated. Now just do these little steps and do it if you want, little by little, so it's not overwhelming, but you're going to be okay.
Great. At this point, it's probably worth putting in a small disclaimer that we're not providing financial advice on the podcast, but
I'm just speaking
exactly
through my own personal experience and in Mexico, right? Like I can't talk about other countries, but I do know that anyone in the world can invest, anyone in the world can save, anyone in the world can spend less than they own, the income, so they have more, that percentage to
right.
So, I mean, there's things, universal things that we can do.
Exactly.
Yes,
and you can also check out the risk profile so that you choose the tool that's right for you and within your risk category and
and regulated, because like, I don't know if you saw the documentary called The Madoff, that story. And basically it was a Ponzi scheme, and this happens everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so why does that work is because they promise you this fictitious percentage that you're going to earn annually, but it's not regulated. And so if someone opens in their house, an investment, firm, please don't put your money there, right?
Exactly.
So go to places that it is regulated and that you can have someone backing you because you have a contract or something, hey, I put my money here, where, what's going on. So at least do that. And
And in the last few minutes, I have collected a few questions from our community from around the world.
Perfect.
And I would love to ask you one question that comes from Daniel in Spain. And so he's saying, I'm in a committed relationship and I'm thinking about proposing. I hear your message about women needing to think about financial independence early, even in the honeymoon phase. As a man, what does it mean to do this well? How can I be supportive of my partner's financial independence without it feeling like we're planning for failure?
So, yeah, it's like he's from Spain, right? Entonces, bueno, querido Daniel. So that's a really good question. Talk about money. Talk about your financial goals. Do you want a house or not? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have kids? And everything related to whatever goal you want has an economic impact, right? So plan it. Yeah. And it's okay. Just talk about it. When we assume that the other will do this, and that's when we get into trouble.
Yeah. And I guess also like having the conversation around, okay, what is our life going to look like together? Do you want to have a career? Do you want to have a business?
Exactly.
Do you want to have like your own, income? And then, okay, have you thought about putting some of this aside as well? And yeah.
I think the couples that I admire most are like the power couples that both bring something to the house apart from marriage and kids and whatever, but like business-wise, women are super smart and they have things that men don't, and also men are very smart and they bring things. So if you can build maybe like a business together, imagine also be as a man saying, I'm so happy I did this with her, because if anything happens to me, she and my kids are going to be okay, right? So I think also thinking about power couples that help each other grow also business-wise is amazing.
And then I have a question from Sophia from Colombia. And she says, I stepped out of the workforce for a few years to take care of my children. Now I'm trying to re-enter, but I'm earning less. I don't have savings in my name. And financially, I'm behind. It feels like the system penalized me for something that was necessary. How do you rebuild from there?
Yeah, 100%. I feel you, because that's the story of so many women. I went through that too. And it's just, we would have to work harder. There's a lack. I feel like I am behind 10 years work-wise compared to some of my friends that didn't stop working. So there is a reality that we have to catch up. But now in this space of like internet and AI, there's so many things you can also do and get really smart and really good at from home, like AI, for example. And right now, everyone is talking about Claude. Maybe in a couple of years, it's going to be something else. But try to be very AI savvy. I think you can find so many things that you can build a business from home, and you can catch up because people are working jobs and not studying AI, right? So you have to open your mind and again say, okay, well, no, that's my reality. How can I be better? So I'm going to take care of myself, but also learn, be savvy in places that people are making a lot of money. And AI is definitely a place where people are making a lot of money. Kids, 18, 16, worldwide are building businesses through AI. But so she could get a lot of knowledge if she's at home, and maybe something can, be born from that. Or also social media, sell stuff. I know that I don't know how to do that, but people sell stuff in TikTok and whatever. And so find ways that you can take advantage that you're at home. But yeah, you're going to have to find a way, and it's never too late to start investing. So whatever income you have, take something of the family. Like if you don't have that cash because you're not working, talk to your husband and tell him, I need this. This is important for me. And also it's going to be important for you because if something happens to you, so I'm going to, help. So make like a team effort to do that. And I do have some women that in Mexico don't have support at all. They're usually older. So I say, do it and don't tell him. But you have to do it as a woman.
Right.
You know, so my money is on all women. We all need money. So whatever the way you want to do it or you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
So.
And then finally, I got several questions about financial literacy for children.
Yeah.
And you just shared with me that you have actually also created materials about, you know, for parents, I guess, or also
Right.
for maybe teenagers or young people to just learn about financial independence. What would you advise parents, you know, how to have those conversations with children from a young age?
I am a mother of 3, so money, I think we could change the narrative into from lack to let's see how we can do this. Like, let's say, oh, I want, you know, a cell phone, and cell phones are super expensive. They're not understanding, you know, the cost of cell phones. So instead of saying, you know, no, we can't afford that, that comes from this lack of mind and of everything. Zero creativity, and also it comes like with guilt, you know, like, why would you tell me that if we don't have any money? Like, it's like a negative thing. So if we say, oh, well, I love that you're so like enthusiastic of, you know, really expensive stuff, but let's see what can we do so that maybe not this year, but eventually, you know, you can have this, you know, this costs a lot, but it's okay, you know, let's see what we can do. So then you start imagination, and you put up a positive spin on money, and take this negative thing that, you know, money is hard and we don't have money. Instead, find opportunities, and kids are ¿cómo se llama? Emprendedores, like entrepreneurial, right?
Yeah.
So a kid has a lot of ideas because he's not a little bit like boxed into, you know, a place like us. When we're older, we become very like close-minded, but they're open-minded. So tell them, what can we do? What can we sell? How can we make money? How can we, and then hear them out and make a plan. And so you can start saving for that. And you can also say, okay, I'll put half. If you get to this goal, I'll put the other half, you know? So you could also chip in and help them. But I think it's all about the narrative, and make it fun and creative, and they will find a way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ana.
Hi, thank you. This
such
has
a
been
pleasure
really nice
having you on the show. And for our listeners, we will link below the book, so you can check it out, and also your social handles. Perfect.
You can be anywhere in the world, and then Amazon is like print on demand, and they will print it and give it to you.
Amazing.
So, yes.
Thank you so much, Ana.
Thank you so much. Thank you.